Hi everyone, welcome. So if you've ever dipped your toes into Python, you've definitely heard about variables. But have you ever stopped to think about what's really going on with the stuff you're putting inside them? Well, today we're going to pull back the curtain on this super important idea called data types. Or, to put it another way, what's in the box?
Okay, so let's start with the basics, just to make sure we're all on the same page. The easiest way, I think, to picture a variable is just as a container, a box. You give the box a name, and then you stick some information inside it so you can use it later. Simple enough, right?
But, and here's where it starts to get a little tricky, what happens if you try to mix and match the stuff inside your different boxes? Like, what if one box has a number and another has a word? Can you just, I don't know, add them together? Well, as you can probably guess, some combinations make total sense, while others, yeah, not so much. I mean, look at this. An apple plus a banana? Totally fine. You get a nice fruit salad. But an apple plus a car? What does that even mean? Your program would just get completely confused.
So to stop that kind of chaos from happening, Python has a built-in system. It absolutely has to know the kind of information it's working with before it tries to do anything. Is it a number? Is it text? Getting this right is the key to making your code actually work.
And that system is what we call a data type. The best way to picture it is like a label that you slap right on the outside of every single box. That label tells Python exactly what's inside, and maybe more importantly, it defines the rules for what you can do with it. It's basically the instruction manual for that variable. The great news is, when you're just starting out, you really only need to know about 4 main labels to get pretty much anything done. So, let's meet them. First up, we've got int, which is just short for integer. This is your go-to label for any whole number. We're talking 5, -10, 1,000. Just no fractions, no decimals, nice and simple whole numbers. But what if you do need a decimal? Well, for that, we use the float data type. If your number has a decimal point, even if it's something like 5.0, Python considers it a float. This is the label you'd use for things like prices or scientific measurements, really any number that isn't perfectly whole. All right, next on our list is string, short for string. This is your label for any kind of text you can imagine, a single character, a word, a whole paragraph. But here's the number one most important rule, and you can see it right there. Strings always have to live inside quotation marks. And last but not least, we have bool, which is short for Boolean. Now this one is super straightforward. It's a label for a value that can only ever be one of two things. It's either true or it's false. That's it. It's perfect for things that have an on or off or a yes or no kind of state. Okay, so we've met the 4 main labels, but, knowing them is one thing. Using them correctly comes down to a few really simple but incredibly important rules. Let's make sure we've got these down. So, remember what I said about strings? This is rule number 1. If you forget to put the quotes around your text, like in that error example, Python doesn't see it as text at all. It'll think emit is the name of some other variable, and your whole program will just break. So I'll say it again. Always use quotes for strings. And here's another one. This is a classic trap that gets so many people when they're starting out. With Booleans, the values are true and false, and you got to notice that capital T and capital F. If you type them in lowercase, like you see on the right, Python has no idea what you're talking about. Capitalization is everything here. Now, this is a really subtle but super important point. To you and me, the number 5 and 5.0 look pretty much the same, right? But to Python, they are worlds apart. The number on the left is a straight-up int. The one on the right, just because of that little decimal point, is a totally different data type, a float. So what happens when you're looking at some code and you're just not sure what data type you're dealing with? Well, lucky for us, Python gives you this awesome tool. It's kind of like a magic scanner that lets you check the label on any box. Let's just walk through a super quick example. First, let's make a variable. We'll call it price, and we'll put the value 99.99 inside. Now, just based on what we've talked about, what label do you think this box has? To find out for sure, we use Python's built-in type function. All you do is put your variable's name, price, right inside those parentheses. This is basically us asking Python, hey, can you tell me what the label is on this box? And boom, there's our answer. Python takes a look at the value, it sees that decimal point, and it correctly reports back that the class, or the data type, is float. See? It's that easy. You can use this on any variable to find out exactly what you're working with. Phew, okay, we've actually covered a ton of ground here. So before we wrap up, let's do a really quick recap, a little cheat sheet to make sure all these ideas stick. And here it is.
everything you need in one place. Int is for whole numbers. Float is for any number with a decimal. String is for text, and, you guessed it, it's got to be in quotes. And bool is for your simple true or false values. Seriously, this little table is the foundation for almost everything you're going to do in Python. So, let's just end with this. The next time you create a variable in Python, don't just think of it as a way to store value. I want you to think about the label you're putting on that box, because knowing the data type isn't just some boring rule. It's the key to making your code smart, efficient, and, most importantly, error-free. So, what are you going to put in your boxes next?